Hey guys, Liz here from the Nail Hub, and today is Friday, which means we are going to do another amazing nail audit together. Today's request actually has to do with chrome. So Tracy sent in a request to me on thenailaudit.com. She said, I struggle to get the perfect glass finish with chrome and wonder if you could do a tutorial using LE products. The video attached is my current manicure with LE Espresso Color Gel with top gloss and a dark brown chrome powder. I did my full manicure with multiple coats of color gel, fully cured and cleansed, then decided to sleep on it. Then the next day I buffed, used a layer of tack to be safe, then the top gloss and cured for 30 seconds. Slightly buffed in the chrome powder with a sponge applicator, then cured another 30 seconds and finished with another top coat of top gloss with a full 60-second cure. I like the results, but I feel like I was chicken to really buff it into a full glass-like shine because in the past the slightly undercured top gloss would wrinkle. I have an LE dot. I also have an Accents black on that I tried once but may have applied it too thick and got wrinkling when I buffed in the chrome. I'm really paranoid about allergies and undercuring, but many of the tutorials seem to indicate that the chrome powder should go on somewhere shy of the full cure time. So I'm never sure how long I should cure before applying the powder. I would love your advice. Thanks in advance. Tracy. Lots of great questions here, Tracy, and hopefully I will be able to break down everything so that it all makes sense. So let's start with the actual act of burnishing chrome powder into a slightly undercured top layer. So typically we use a no cleanse top coat for this just to eliminate the need for us to cleanse the nail before actually going right into our chrome. So you could use something like Accents Shine On. There's no cleanse top coats from a lot of different brands. There's also Light Elegance Top Gloss, which actually has been recently reformulated. So if you used Top Gloss in the past and you didn't like it because it yellowed, they've actually reformulated Top Gloss and it's way better than it used to be. And I'm actually a huge fan of Top Gloss now. But you can also use cleansing top coats like Super Shiny. You can even use some other soak off gel polish top coats like Top Gloss from Accents. And anything that you like beyond that. The reason why a lot of people will say undercure your top coat is because we kind of want the top coat to be a little bit porous when we burnish in that actual chrome powder. So there's a fine line between undercured and having it not quite fully be polymerized completely, where it's hardened, which is 50% cured, but we're not taking it into that 80 or 90% cure rate like we would if we did the full exposure time. So to start off with, if you are dealing with gel that moves around, like still liquid or wrinkly or peely when you're trying to burnish in chrome, that is in fact way too undercured. The gel polish, gel top coat, whatever you're burnishing chrome into, should not move at all. It should actually be hardened, which means that you'll have achieved something like 50 to 60% cure rate with that gel. So usually what I recommend is chopping the cure time in half to get close to that amount of polymerization. But you can also test things in 15-second increments to see if one is better than the other. So for example, with top gloss, you might actually want to start out at 30 seconds. If it's still undercured, add another 15 seconds to 45. Test that out and see if it's hardened enough, but still is grippy enough to be able to burnish that chrome into. And again, the idea is that we haven't fully polymerized and hardened that product to complete polymerized levels. That way it's going to be more porous than it would naturally be, and it's going to allow, that porosity is going to allow that burnished powder to kind of grip in between those little microscopic spaces and really get down into that top coat layer. Okay, so I have a couple different styles of chrome powder that I wanted to show you. This one I actually opened before I started filming and you can see it like all over the place. These flakes are really cool. This is from Brillbird. There's lots of different brands that make these type of chrome powders. The flakes are really cool because they add a different kind of mottled texture to the chrome. You can burnish them in to make them more smooth, but they are definitely a little bit more interesting in texture. However, they are super messy and just even the slightest breath makes them go all over the place. So I will carefully put the lid back on. Then I have some regular powdered chrome that's the same color as that Brillbird one. It's like a bluish purple dual tone, which is really, really pretty, that I'm going to show you guys over this nail. And I can even do side-by-side comparisons so you guys can see what it would look like. So let's start with this nail. which is the darker nail, and we will use Light Elegance Top Gloss, just like Tracy was using. So we'll apply top gloss over the entire nail. And also just make sure that your top coat goes past the perimeter of the color gel a little bit, just so that you don't end up with like a sticky inhibition layer of the color that kind of grips more in that area. We kind of want to make sure we have like the same surface across the entire nail as we're working with the chrome. I'm going to start by curing this for just 30 seconds, and then we can also increase that by 15 seconds if we need it to be a little bit more cured. Okay, so after 30 seconds, then I can touch this and test to make sure that it's actually hardened, which it is. You can see that it has a little bit of an inhibition layer still, which is pretty normal. And that is why we kind of want to under-cure the gel a little bit. So this is basically going to be about 50% cured because it's actually hardened, but it's not been polymerized all the way to the full extent that it's supposed to be. So it's going to make it a little bit more porous, a little bit more grippy for that chrome powder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the regular powder version first. I usually use my gloved finger and I pick up some powder. And one of the most common things that happens with chrome powders is people don't put enough on the nail. So what I like to do is I like to actually press chrome powder all over the area that I'm going to burnish first, like so. And then I go back and I burnish it in. I'm going to do this nail half and half just so you guys can see the difference of the two styles of chrome. So this one has more flakes. I'll use a different finger just to make sure. So the flakes are actually kind of cool because you can like press them on and it gives it a little bit more textured look. And you can also use these things together to kind of create fades and just different stuff. But these flakes literally just go airborne like crazy. You can also use an alcohol wipe to clean off your fingers if you need to in between. And if you really mess up with your application, wiping the chrome off with alcohol will take everything off. So that's a great way to be able to clean up your chrome if you're not happy with the way that it turned out. You can just wipe the whole nail down and start over. All right, so let me get rid of all of this. Now, as far as burnishing, you have a couple options. You can use your gloved hands, which works well for some chromes. You can also use a makeup sponge. If you want to use a makeup sponge, you can use silicone tools. You can do all kinds of things. So today I'm just going to use a makeup sponge, and I'll show you guys how I usually go about doing this. So you don't want to rub too hard to the point where you're like erasing off the chrome, but you do want to kind of lightly and evenly go around and really burnish everything in. So I usually just start, and you can make kind of like circular motions. And then I like to just go around that free edge and the cuticle area just to make sure everything gets pressed in. Okay, so let me zoom in really quick so you guys can see the difference. You guys are gonna be able to see me on camera in the mirror like finish. Okay, so if I kind of just turn this nail side to side, see how the flaky one, you can see the kind of texture up above, but the powder, you actually can't see any of that flakiness. You might be able to see like flakes on top where I touched over, but it just kind of adds a different effect. So one's going to be a little bit more speckled, and the other one is going to be more traditional, just chrome finish. Okay, then what we're going to do, you have a couple options. If you want to go right into your top coat, you absolutely can. I usually don't cure this again before I go in with my top coat, just because I can do all of that in one step. And if I'm putting clear top coat over the top, any light is going to penetrate all the way through that anyway. So if you want, you can use something like tack or another non-acid primer, Luminary Commit, Young Nails, or even like Accents, Affix-It, any of those. And you can just like touch the free edge of the nail with some of the tack or whatever non-acid primer you're wanting to use. That's going to help kind of create it's going to help to bond the chrome powder to the gel underneath, and it's also going to help your top coat bond to this chrome layer, and that way you don't end up getting a ton of free edge chipping and lifting or separation. Then I'm going to go back in with the same top gloss, And again, make sure you cover all of the areas of chrome that you've applied, because anything that you cleanse at the end is going to come off if it's not perfectly encapsulated. So I like to just make sure I go over it a couple times, making sure I cap that free edge really, really well. And that's what it should look like after you put your top gloss on. Okay, so we're gonna cure this for the full time, which is 60 seconds. I also highly recommend having a dedicated bottle of top coat that you use primarily for glitters and chromes. Your top coat over time is going to be contaminated by things used for nail art like this. So you want to make sure that when you go to do French nails or white nails that you don't have little speckles of chrome powder buried in your gel top coat somewhere. So I like to always mark one of my bottles as nail art top coat or chrome top coat, and then I also have my regular top coats that I use for my regular full color appointments. Okay, so there you have the finished chrome. I'll even take this out of here so you guys can see a little bit better. So you can see that speckliness of the half of the nail that we did with that flaky chrome, and then you can see the regular chrome down below. So this is the part that I find is a little deceiving, and you guys can actually see this because I'm filming this in 4K way up close. But this is the part that I find is a little deceiving when we're talking about social media. A lot of people, when they do chrome for the first time, they are surprised to find that there's graininess with their chrome in person in real life when they're doing it. And I have actually never seen chrome nails that didn't have some level of graininess when you're doing it in real life. Now, if I'm going to zoom out and take a picture of these nails from far away, you can see that all of that graininess and that texture disappear, and it just looks like a perfectly mirrored nail. But if you're really looking at these up close, you're going to be able to see some of that grainy metallic texture of the powder, even if you burnish it in a lot. The other thing you can do is you can also do multiple layers of chrome. So if you find that you've got patchiness on your first layer, you can always go back into this cured top coat layer and add more chrome if you want to, and then seal again. So there's a lot of that too. And you can also do layering techniques where you use maybe a cat eye gel or a metallic gel polish under your chrome instead of just using a plain solid flat color. If you use a metallic color under your chrome and then more metallic chrome, again, it's going to help diffuse some of those imperfections in your chrome application. But this is the best way I have found to do chrome. And I do think 30 seconds is the right number for Light Elegance Top Gloss, but depending on hand placement, you might want to just up it by 15 seconds if you're finding that that top coat is moving on you while you're doing that. Now, last but not least, I did mention earlier about how no cleanse top coats do have a little bit of an inhibition layer, and that is in fact true. So what I usually like to do at the very end of the chrome service is I like to actually cleanse that little teeny bit of inhibition layer off of the top coat, and it also helps me to clean up the chrome around the cuticle area and the sidewalls. Okay, so wipe down your chrome nails one last time just to make sure that you get any little teeny bit of inhibition layer off of the nail, because Light Elegance, Light Elegance Top Gloss does have a hypoallergenic formula with those oligomers in there, but not every top coat is going to be like that. And even though it says no cleanse, I still recommend cleansing your no cleanse top coats at the very end of the service just to make sure that any inhibition layer does get removed. The reason why chrome powder chips is because we are essentially sandwiching a dry layer of powder in between two layers of gel. So we kind of have our top coat just sitting on top, even though we're burnishing that chrome in, where we have that top coat, final top coat layer sitting on top of a powdery layer. This can also sometimes happen with different types of dry glitter applications, nail art, different things like that, where the two layers of gel really aren't actually adhered together and they're being separated by a layer of nail art powder or chrome powder in between. We can use products like non-acid primers to actually make that powdery layer sticky again, especially on the free edge, so that when we apply our final layer of top coat, we get full adhesion around that free edge, which is going to help eliminate a lot of chipping. But in general, chrome nails are the most likely to chip, especially within those first 7 to 10 days. And it's just a matter of practicing and trying out different types of product mixes and techniques to see what works best. The other reason why chrome chips is all chrome powders are a little bit different. Some are going to have a little bit of an oiliness to them as if they were a cosmetic. So depending on where you're buying them from, they may actually be just eyeshadow that's been repurposed for chrome powder. And because they are cosmetics that are intended to be used on skin, then they're going to have some oils in there that wouldn't normally be in just a plain old pigment powder. So those oils can also lead to a little bit of that separation factor that leads to chipping. It's not necessarily a no-go for using things like that. I've seen lots of people use eyeshadow as pigment powders for different nail art effects. It's just a consideration to know that you might have a little bit more premature chipping than if you were using just a straight chrome powder that was actually made exactly for nail art from a company that specializes in chrome powders. And of course, there's also a lot of variances in quality. So if you're buying just random chrome powders online, you're going to be able to see a vast difference in quality between even two chromes of the exact same color that look exactly the same. Some of them will actually burnish better than others, and it just comes down to trial and error. All right, Tracy, I hope this video has helped you a little bit more with your chrome powder applications. You know, this is one of those things that is a very popular nail art technique, but it isn't always foolproof. And even though we see really beautiful, perfect pictures of chrome on social media, it is one of those things that doesn't always look exactly the same in real life. And it's also one of those things that inevitably is going to take on a lot more wear and tear than a traditional gel manicure. So don't be afraid to practice, get into that trial and error phase. Practice on yourself to kind of test different combinations and different techniques. And don't forget to write each of these techniques down and which finger you practiced it on so that you know exactly how to replicate it on a client or on yourself in the future. That's probably one of the biggest things I see with people when they start experimenting is they just keep experimenting. They're not writing any of their steps down as they go along. And then they find a winning combination but forget what the actual winning combination was. So always write things down and mark which combination of steps and products you used on each finger. That way you can refer back to it 1 or 2 weeks later when you're reviewing the results of your application. Now, all of my Nail Hub TV members are welcome to submit their own nail audit requests. All you have to do is go to thenailaudit.com, fill out my form, provide either a video or a picture upload for me or both, as well as the most detailed description you can come up with, just like Tracy did, trying to tell me exactly what she's dealing with, because that's going to allow me to make a really detailed video for you and be able to provide a very specific response that ultimately I hope is going to help you achieve all of the results that you're looking for. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I'll see you guys in another nail audit soon. Bye.